Hello and welcome back to Mellohi, a DSMP podcast. This is episode 38 and today we're discussing what if DSMP scenarios and also indeed time in prison with Dream. As always, we refer to the characters by name, specifying we're talking about the writers, and we focus on analysis. Alright, we're back.
Hi.
Well, we got a good few answers to the question of the week, which is a lot better than we got the other week. So let's go through them.
Yeah.
So the first one is,
you should probably restate what the question was.
True, yeah.
Oh yeah, so the question is what are any cool what if ideas?
Yeah.
That would be neat to see in the DSMP story.
Sort of
something along that. I can't remember the exact wording. What's the exact wording I used?
What sort of what if scenarios would be cool to see within the Dream SMP lore? So sort of alternate universes ideas, basically.
Alright, so the first one is, what if Tommy stayed with Technoblade instead of helping defend the member?
Lamentberg. I don't know what would have changed. I guess Tebo and Tommy wouldn't have been on the same side, so the disc finale would have probably gone down differently.
I mean, it's interesting to consider because Dream would still be helping Techno.
Yeah.
It's how would they go? Would they just be on the same side and just
It'd be awkward.
ignoring each other
It would be
completely?
very,
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be the most awkward thing. It would be hilarious though.
I feel like it wouldn't be... I don't know, that'd be interesting, because I think that would change... I don't think that would change a lot with, Techno and Tommy, other than, it would have been more of a positive relationship with them going forward. I think it would have changed things between Tommy and Dream, however, because it means that Tommy and Techno still have that connection.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been harder for Dream to get his foot in the door for Doomsday. Because part of what...
It could be a case where Techno and Tommy go to do it, and then Dream shows up with the Obsidian Grid and helps them.
See, the thing is I feel like Tommy would have stayed with Technoblade, but if he stayed with Techno, I don't think he would have helped destroy Lamentberg. I just think he wouldn't have shown up. So I think maybe Techno, Dream, and Phil would have still destroyed Lamentberg, and then Tommy just didn't come. Because I don't think he would have helped destroy Lamentberg. But if hypothetically he stayed with Techno, then I think he would have just sort of he'd be the one staying at home, and then they'd come back.
Although we also have to consider the fact that this finale was staged, because that implies that Dream would find a way for it to happen even if his original plan didn't go as expected.
Yeah, but it's hard to say what that would have turned into, though, because we don't know what Dream's ultimate, we know what his goal, his ultimate fantasy goal, whatever it is, but we don't know his plan. We don't know why he did stage disc finale other than get himself locked in the prison, but we don't know why he wanted himself in the prison. So it's hard to really theorize and be yes, this is the reason that...
Alright, so we got another one. What if the egg succeeded in killing all the guests during the Red Banquet?
It would have just been cool. I'm gonna be real.
Well, the egg would have definitely gone a lot more powerful for that.
I feel...
And they're probably at the moment there's no red vines anywhere outside of its room,
hatched.
so they'd probably be all over the place.
You know those fanfic there's a lot of fan fiction done with the concept of the egg takes over the server. I'm pretty sure that's what would have happened. I'm pretty sure it would have been a full apocalypse.
I read some very good ones.
Sort of situation where everything is taken over by the egg and it's just over.
Listen,
for them.
the egg takes over the server
apocalypse.
theory can still win based on the evidence we've gotten from the lore streams.
Oh yeah. It can still happen.
We're still there.
I would actually be really cool with that. I really love the whole egg takes over the server apocalypse because it presents this sort of bigger threat to the server as a whole.
Yeah, everybody has to
work
make them
together. All
together.
sort of come together. Yeah, and it would break down a lot of sort of the relationships.
Yeah.
It would introduce new interesting things with relationships, right? Because a lot of the current conflicts and stuff are sort of, I'm not gonna say petty, but they're personal, right?
Yeah.
It's Dream and Tommy hate each other, blah 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 blah. Quackity hates Dream, and it's all based on this past history. Quackity hates
It
Technoblade.
creates
But by
situations where people are forced to work together, either because they're both under the control of the egg, or they're both fighting
Yeah.
against the egg,
Yeah.
and they have to work together, otherwise they won't stand a chance.
And I feel
which
like-
is interesting. And it also means that characters that are usually on the same side cannot be on the same side
Yeah.
if one's controlled by the egg and one isn't.
It would break a lot of the current relationships that we have, but in a very good way. That would.
It would be cool to see in the way that it would like shake up the status
Yeah, and I think I feel like that could be done really, really well. So I think if the egg had killed everyone, at least based off of what we know of, you know, if people die on it, it gets more powerful. It would be like, it'd either be game over for the server and full apocalypse, everything ends, or it'd be apocalypse, but, you know, fighting the apocalypse, stopping the apocalypse would become the new overall plot.
Yeah.
Like, I think if the egg succeeded at the banquet, that would have to become sort of the overarching mega plot that everyone gets tied into, instead of, like, you know, the stuff that we used to do with, like, Lemamberg.
Yeah.
The next one is sort of related to this, and I'm just going to expand on what the person originally said. What if the egg was able to control Dream? I was like in control of Dream.
That'd be wild. I've
See-
seen some people make AUs of that, where he like actually gets
I
possessed.
have to. I've seen both of where he gets possessed by the egg and he's on the egg's side versus like he's like one of the last people left against
Yeah.
the egg.
I think like the last person left against the egg thing works because of the whole thing with the egg and Prime and him being
Yeah.
connected to like helping to build Church Prime and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also the idea of like the egg being able to give him what he wants
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
also works for him being controlled by the egg.
I'm gonna plug a fanfiction. What the hell
I'm
is
gonna plug a fanfiction.
I'm gonna plug a fanfiction.
There's that one where like Dream time travels back in time and decides to just leave everyone.
Yeah, I think
Is
that's
it
the
talking
one
about
I'm
like
the,
thinking
their
the
own
of.
Doom's
message?
timeline?
And then the egg
No,
takes
no,
over the
there-
server and they're like
so-
coming to him to try and get him, and then he lets Tommy get eaten by the egg.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah,
It's very
okay.
good
Yeah,
fanfiction.
so there's the Doom timeline, which is the one that Sabu mentioned, which is not
Oh, okay,
the
right.
other one. And that is where he time travels back in time because of Carl, and he's trying to restart and fix everything from before Lemamberg was made, or like at the beginning of the Lemamberg War. And then there's A Home from Which to Watch the
Oh,
Walker,
okay.
which I think starts, I want to say before the at that around the time the egg first shows up, so right before Exile, like after, like Wilbur's dead already, I think. So I think, or maybe it's around, I think maybe it's right after the first Lemamberg War. I don't know, but basically, yeah, he completely he strikes a deal with the egg, which had gotten locked into Pandora's vault before taking over the server, or something like that. Or no, wait, I remember. So the egg got locked into the prison by Sam, Quackity, and the others. And while in the prison, it struck a deal with Dream that with his admin powers, they'd reset the timeline back to right after the Lemamberg War. He'd be set free, and he'd be the only one that they leave alive, and that the egg could have the rest of the server. And so he goes off, sets his own homestead that he can block people from getting into, and then syndicate stuff, and it's Tommy gets sacrificed to the egg in a really gruesomely brutal fashion.
Jesus.
But it's all ending
There's a really
pretty
cool plot
happy and
twist with
stuff
the
like
Yeah.
that. I'm not gonna
No, you're
spoil
good.
more shit.
No, damn. That's wild.
But yeah.
Fuck.
So that's a good one. Yeah, no, that's a really good sort of eggpire, sort of Dream sort of working with the egg, but not really. I don't know. There's so many good things you can
There's
do.
a really good bit with Sapnap.
Yeah, there's so many good things you can do with the egg, just
Yeah.
in general, and the premise of the egg on
Yeah.
the server. And I feel like a lot of people.
Like, it's such a pity that lore's kind of come to a halt for now because it's one of the most interesting plot lines.
I honestly
Yeah,
think so.
yeah.
Yeah, like if there was any like
Give us the egg
storyline,
finale.
like there's a lot of storylines I think that just sort of like died off, like Tubbo's nuke things and whatever Fundy was up to. But if there was any one of them that I would want back, it'd be the egg, because that just had way too much like that was interesting and good about it for it to end like with no satisfactory
Yeah.
ending. So I just
Alright, next one, and you actually suggested this one, Sweet. What if Techno sided with Lemamberg during November 16th, not Wilbur?
Yeah, which I feel like for November 16th, it wouldn't have a lot of
Yeah,
impact,
no.
right? Because that's sort of... Wilbur would have blown up L'Manberg, whatever, and if Techno hadn't joined in with the Withers, Dream probably wouldn't have done anything extra. But I think it would have longer-lasting consequences for after that, because new L'Manberg, I think, would be completely different, because I don't think Techno would have allowed it to be a dictatorship of any kind. So I don't think I think he would have stood up to
It might also
Quackity's
influence
bullshit.
Exile.
I think it would have changed Exile, too. I don't know if, yeah, because Dream
Like, at the
doesn't
very
want to fuck
least,
with
he'd
Techno,
be...
so I don't think Tommy would have gotten exiled either, unless, like, I don't know, I feel like that would have played, I think it would play out a lot
I think, like, if he
differently.
was exiled, Techno would have, like, tried paying more attention to it if they were part of the same faction, and they didn't have that disagreement already.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Because in canon, he was kind of like, I'm just gonna wait until he realizes government is bad and comes to me for help. Well, I think in a scenario where they're both already, like, on the same side, he'll be more willing to help Tommy.
Yeah.
Just directly, rather than waiting for him.
Yeah. I think, because that's sort of his idea, like, him getting angry at them for making a new government at November 16th is sort of where the split of trust that was tenuous on his part, I think, already, because honestly the Poctopians were kind of fuckheads. But I think that would have changed his and Tommy's dynamic, because that is why Exile is very tenuous between them, because he had been betrayed, basically, or as far as his opinion went, is he'd been betrayed because he literally just helped these people stage revolution, and then they were just gonna take over and do the same thing that he just stopped, and he was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think, I don't know, so I feel like that would have so many implications and changes that it would happen, just overall, over time.
It would definitely change the dynamic between Quackity and Techno a lot.
I think so, but I think it could play out similarly, but with more,
I
with
think it
less,
would be more like
I think,
fighting over leadership, maybe.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think it'd be less like direct, like
Best
conflict,
mortal
combat,
enemies.
and more like a lot of like political sort of navigation and that kind of conflict. Because I think what would happen is basically, because with New L'Manberg, Quackity's whole thing is that he just came in and acted like he was, you know, the talk of the town, basically, and tried to get Tubba to do whatever he wanted. With the backing of Funny, but Techno I don't think would fall to Quackity easily, and I think he's much more likely to be sort of a voice of reason, even though I think he can be chaotic at times. I think he would just sort of stand up to Quackity, and I think that would lead to conflict between the two of them. It just wouldn't be as bad as, you know, trying to get one publicly executed and doing a witch hunt for him.
Alright, so next one. Again, it's kind of interesting how these lead to each other, because people were saying them in a Discord channel and getting ideas from each other. What if Dream and Quackity ran in the elections together?
L'Manberg would have been destroyed much earlier.
Holy shit, yeah.
It would be L'Manberg in name, but there would be nothing separating it from the Greater Dream SMP. Like, I don't think his... Like, no, I think if Dream had run as vice president and gotten elected alongside Quackity, I think he would have let L'Manberg exist, but it would have been in name only. So it would basically just be like, yeah, this is L'Manberg. There's no walls, there's no separation. It's basically just the Greater Dream SMP, and this is a neighborhood. Like, I don't think...
It'd be kind of like Boomerville.
It would
just
be
exists.
L'Manberg. Yeah, it'd be like Boomerville. It'd be like, yeah, that's a place, but, like, it's just because that's where a few people live. Like, they're not a country. It wouldn't be a country anymore. It would just be a part of the Dream SMP. But...
right, so next, this is another one of yours. What if Nikki actually managed to kill Tommy with the nuke?
I just think that'd be funny as hell.
I honestly don't know. I think it would just be funny.
It would, like, they try and get Dream to revive him?
I don't know.
I don't know. Right, because when did that happen? That happened before Tommy went into the prison and got killed by Dream, right? So I think nothing would have happened, honestly, because I think Tommy would have died, Dream's locked in a prison cell, so it's not like he'll hear about it. Maybe for, like, from a writer's standpoint, they would have it that, like, Tubbo or someone, you know, remembered the fact that, hey, Dream has a supposed revive book. Let's see if he can revive Tommy. So maybe it would have ended up in a situation where, like, Tubbo and Rambo or, like, anyone who was close with Tommy went to Dream and was like,
yeah, that's what
Tommy's dead, revive him, and they're like, and he'd be like all suave and like cool and be like, alright, but like I can't do it in here, you gotta let me go, and then he would revive Tommy and escape, and it'd be like a whole thing, and I think that would have been fun. But
That would be cool.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so this is one of mine. What if Tommy called Techno for help during the Lamberg Revolution, only for Techno to take one look at the situation and join Dream's side?
that would just be funny. Imagine calling in what you think is gonna be your biggest ally, and then he becomes your most dangerous enemy. That's hilarious. Like, that's like self-sabotage to a different level, but by accident. Because despite the fact that, like, Techno upon showing up was very vocal and very clear about the fact that, like, hey, I hate government. Like, this, like, I'm here because I hate government. I think, I don't know, I think it'd be really, really funny if he just shows up and they're like, oh my god, Techno.
Oh my god, Techno?
Hey. Oh my god, Techno? And then he
my
just...
idea, the original, like, AU idea was that Tommy called him because he's the only person he knows
Who can
if
kill
he's beating Dream in a fight that isn't also on Dream's side.
That would be objectively hilarious, because then he would have shown up. He would have... I feel like Tommy... Like, Wilbur would have tried to lie, obviously, right? Like, Wilbur would have tried to be like, well, they are tyrants. And then Techno would be like, well, what the fuck did they do to you? Like, it would be kind of... I feel like it would depend, right? Because I think if he showed up, it would... If you're going with the theory, like, he showed up, Wilbur tried to convince him, like, hey, yeah, we're the good guys. They're the tyrants. And then he was... you know, got the lowdown from, like, Dream or somebody else, which, honestly, I don't know. I think, I mean, if he joined up with Dream, then Lamberg just wouldn't exist, right? Like, there would be no...
Yeah.
he would have just been like, this is...
Been like,
it wouldn't even be because, like, of a physical, like, superiority, right? Because Dream already did that, right? Like, the Dream team absolutely stomped Lamberg. The reason that they let it happen is because he realized, like, yeah, they're never gonna stop fighting for this. I think Techno would just bully them so badly, there would not be, like, a martyrdom, like, oh, but you say no, but we're gonna keep fighting forever. No, he would bully them for being stupid so badly that they would just never come up with anything.
He would ask Wilbur if he's homeless because he's living in a van.
Yeah. And, like, Techno would obviously be bullying Dream at the exact same time, right? Like, it wouldn't be, like, a one-sided thing. He would say, you're both idiots. But Lamberg, like, there's nothing... Lamberg would not be able to be cool enough for, like, Tommy or Tubbo or any of the people that signed up with it originally to stay with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was... For all that Wilbur is charismatic, if you have, you know, Techno... Techno on your side, he can just wreck you. Like, Quackity's pretty charismatic, but Techno shows up and you're just like, yeah, I'm not listening to anything Quackity ever says. He looks like an idiot. Because Techno's just absolutely demolishing it.
Yeah, like, that's fucking...
Like,
I mean, it's accurate. That's...
Let's see what's next.
I mean,
what if Nikki was not fooled by Wilbur's idealism and didn't join the Lamberg?
Oh, it's just shitting on Lamberg Day.
Oh, damn.
I don't know. I
mean, to be fair, they also mentioned after that, I'm very anti-Lamberg, and it shows.
Who isn't these days?
For real.
You all should be. Everyone should be anti-Lamberg, to be honest, because that thing started all of the problems on the server. People can say it was Tommy.
But it's okay if you like it. Like, you can like Lamberg as long as you're Lamberg critical.
Lamberg's just like, you know, it's just another, it's like, it's a whole ass, like, country based off of, like, Britain, come on.
It can be your problematic
It's based off of Britain, how can you like it, you know what I mean? Like, it's based off Hamilton, but come on, it's just British, like.
Just be aware of your problematic faves, guys.
Yeah, like, just be aware. Oh, man. The origins.
Man.
Like no good has ever come from a British man coming into a place and looking at a bit of land and saying, "This is mine now."
Yeah, that's just never any good. What was I saying? I was gonna say something. But... Oh, right, Nikki. I don't think I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't change a lot of things for the overall story of L'Manberg. It might change things on the Dream SMP side because Nikki's just a good person. I think it would change a lot for her story because a lot of her trauma comes from trusting Wilbur and the, sort of.
Yeah,
L'Manberg.
I think her.
So I think
character would be very different.
I think it would be different, but I feel like it could also play out kind of the same eventually. Just instead of Wilbur,
the general plot beats would go out as usual.
Yeah.
But the character dynamics might be shifted a bit.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it, because I think it'd be the same plot beats, like you said. I think the only difference is that I was gonna say it was I think Nikki's story would somewhat change, but it might not. It might change in small bits, but it depends on how much you think. If we because when she's on L'Manberg's side, it's Wilbur who sort of leads to a lot of the things that happen to her. But if she joined on the Dream SMP side, could you then theorize that Dream and his slow decline and downfall into the
That's
bad
what I was
guy
thinking as well.
Yeah, so it depends, right? Because a big part of
it would also depend on how close they'd be.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
It could just be that she would just become a regular citizen, or they could become close friends.
It really depends on sort of how that plays out between if her dynamic with Dream is similar to her dynamic with Wilbur. Which I think it could be, right? Because Dream, at the beginning of the server, was generally a nice guy to people who didn't, steal his shit and piss him off. He was super nice to Nikki. So I could see them, becoming friends. Maybe not as close as her and Wilbur, but I feel I don't know, I feel there's some... It would be
there's also a chance it could go sort of the opposite direction and she ends up in a role similar to Pun's.
That'd be interesting.
Being one of the few people he trusts.
I'd love to see that for Nikki. That'd be cool. Nikki's such a cool character.
Double Agent Nikki. Alright, so what if everyone could hear
They would just hear words? A lot of, could you imagine though, if you go pass near some guy and you, hear his, you hear, these crows just talking. You don't even know what talking's coming from.
Yeah.
Tommy just hears Wilbur's voice shouting out of when the crow's talking about his boiler
talking about
exploding.
eating sand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I don't know, that'd be
chaotic.
I don't think that would have a huge plot impact, except maybe the crows spoiling shit all the time and telling people things they should not know. But I think it would be very funny if you're if Doomsday starts and all of the L'Manbergians are sitting there ready to defend their country, and all of a sudden they just see this cloud of black take over the sky as thousands and thousands of crows start just making the most nonsensical noisy cascade of voices. Yeah. It would be whatever Techno hears in his head as a character, but audibly to everyone, and that would be kind of hilarious.
God.
It'd be awful. It'd be god-awful, but it'd be hilarious.
What if Wilbur and Dream actually became allies after Pogtopia and Wilbur didn't die?
Wilbur didn't die. That'd be kind of interesting. I guess it would depend, right? Because I think... I feel that could actually have a big plot impact. Because I think part of the reason that New L'Manberg was able to be made is that Wilbur was dead.
Yeah.
Because I think if Wilbur was still alive... Because I think Wilbur dying sort of served as a scary story you tell people, right? Don't be like this guy. He fell to, madness and he blew up his own country and he hurt everyone. But if he was still alive, and so, because he becomes sort of a story of both, tragedy and, a warning story of how to not be a leader, and how to not think of your country, I think if he was still alive, it would have played out differently, right?
Yeah.
Because if he's dead, it's easy to romanticize him in your head. It's easy to say, well, it's just because he went crazy. Like, he was still a good guy. L'Manberg was still good. But if he's still alive and
like,
running around spreading
shit.
this sort of rhetoric that L'Manberg was bad, L'Manberg's awful, L'Manberg always was awful, it's going to be a lot harder for the people who are left to rebuild.
I don't know. I feel like he'd try to, like, build something else. The man's relentless. Like...
I don't know. It's hard to say.
The Halo 16 thing made me think that he would have literally just been like, alright, well, L'Manberg was scrapped, so... New country.
See?
He just goes like 1,000 blocks over.
He's like, alright, guys.
And makes like women.
He's like,
Oh
we
God.
can't call it a country. He was like, it's not a country. He just keeps trying to hammer home that it's not like what it is, and then fucking like, I don't know.
See, that's the other thing, though, right? Because part of the reason that that Wilbur, as a character right now, is as he is because he spent that 13 years in limbo.
Yeah, which fucked him
so,
up a bit.
assuming he didn't get that, and instead he was in just, like, max self-destructive mode, without, dying after November 16th, like, what would he do? Like, what... Would he, like, try and rebuild something? Or would he just be full-on, I'm gonna just destroy everything? Because I feel like he'd go, like, world end mode. Like, he would just destroy everything he could get his hands on. Like, it wouldn't stop at L'Manberg. It would cross everything. And then it would end up with Dream turning on him because, hey, I hated L'Manberg, but I don't hate my server as a whole. Stop. So I think, like, I don't know. I feel like he would die shortly after. Like, if he didn't die at November 16th, someone would kill him after that.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
Nah, yeah.
I don't know. Wilbur's quite a character.
He's something, certainly.
it's hard to summarize thoughts on him.
Here's one of mine. What if Dream had a house? And then someone else mentioned, what if Sapnap had brain cells?
Both of those would lead to different
And here's
things.
one of yours that's actually interesting. What if Tubbo actually stood up for himself as president the whole time and became like an actual dictator?
Oh yeah, that was fun. Wait.
I think I saw a few fics back when Tommy was first exiled that sort of went with this idea, although they were more just kind of like making Tubbo the bad guy so there was a bad guy.
Which I don't really like doing that. Like, I feel like I understand, like, sometimes it's kind of necessary for fanfiction, because, like, you need an antagonist, right? And if you're making fanfiction, then really, all you have is making an OC, which a lot of people aren't gonna like, or...
It doesn't take much effort, really, to give a villain some depth.
Yeah, you can make a villain
like, just
have
because they're
depth.
an antagonist doesn't mean they have to be, like, mindlessly evil, you know?
Right. I think it's just easy, it depends on, obviously, the fanfic writer, because, like, some people will make fanfiction where they make... they want their villain to have depth, they want their villain to have complexity, because they want to tell a good story overall, right? Versus some people will have more of a thing where it's like, I want to tell a good story, but I mostly want to tell a story about these characters. So their focus isn't on making the villain, like, really cool and have a lot of depth and complexity. It's about making the main characters have these moments that they really want to see. So I think it depends on the fanfic
I really think that,
offer.
like, the term, like, of character bashing should really be brought back because it is useful for these types of situations where people will just take characters and use them as villains, even if it's completely out of character for them, or taking, like, characters that maybe are a bit not great in, like, the original story, but making them, like, 10 times worse.
Yeah, it's like,
Like, you take a character who's, like, kind of morally grey and maybe a bit misguided in the original source, as, like, oh yeah, this character's now, like, completely evil and trying to take over the world and murder the main character's parents.
Yeah, because the whole thing behind using, like, character bashing, or, like, what was the other tag? It's
like, it tells people who are, like, looking at that fic, I'm not going to be treating this character like a proper character. They're just here to be bad guys.
Yeah. It's like character bashing signifies that, like you're saying, like I'm character dream bashing, which means, like, obviously, or the other tag is that they used to use, I don't see very much anymore, is like blank not friendly or something like that. It was like, it's not character dream friendly or something like that. because it
I think it kind of depends
signifies.
on the fandom. Like, I know that, like, Avengers and stuff uses
Yeah.
not friendly, and then you look at, like, Harry Potter and that
Yeah.
uses bashing. So it's sort of like a thing that's, like, a different fandom cultures say it different ways, and in the Dream SMP fandom, it tends to be characters, not a blank apologist.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I feel like even that doesn't really work.
But it's sort of like, because that kind of covers when you're writing a character in like, as an antagonist, but you're still writing them with depth
Yeah.
and, like, canonical traits, versus just writing them as a baddie.
Yeah. Because I think the reason, like, I understand that, like, the fandom usually uses the word apologist for, like, hey, I really like this character and I see them sympathetically and I love them, and they've done nothing wrong. But not always, because I know the character Dreams apologists don't use that definition, and they do think he did things wrong. But, like, it's the more generally, if you're an apologist for a character, it means you're very sympathetic towards them, and you can sort of, you're not gonna make them a pure evil bad guy, right? You're gonna be like, hey, this is my boo, and I love them, and I'm gonna give them I'm gonna be friendly towards them. I don't remember my original point, but but, like, I think the problem with it, though, is, like, obviously people just misuse the tag and tag themselves on it when they're obviously not actually, like, an apologist or, like, friendly towards that character, and they just do it to flood tags that they don't belong in, which is a shitty thing to do. But it also, like, it leaves still a lot of room, because, like, you can tag a fan fiction as being, like, I'm not a character Dream apologist, but then, like, you're still in the fan fiction itself, like, you're completely, like, bashing him and turning him into, like, this pure villain character, and that's not really, like, that, I'd say, like, if you're taking a character from the source and you're just being like, yeah, I don't really care about the actual characterization of this character, I just need a bad guy, that's basically being, like, and then you're being, like, absolutely, like, an absolute asshole to that character, like, and make terrible things happen to them, or just making them, like, a terrible person. That, I would say, is more character bashing than being like, well, I'm not a blank apologist. Like, okay, that's cool. That just means you don't like the character. That doesn't tell me anything about how you're gonna depict them, except you're probably not gonna be super well, like, writing them super well, because you don't care.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't...
Alright, so final question. What if Tubbo chose the greater Dream SMP side?
That'd be interesting. How fast do you think he could
Greater
get
Dream
nukes?
SMP should have nukes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both just had the exact same idea.
How early do you
Like,
think he can make
now
those
that's
nuclear
what-
weapons?
yeah.
in the
At some
story?
point, Dream just gets so fed up, and he's like, with the Manberg, and he just goes to Tubbo and is like, hey, can you build me a nuke? And Tubbo goes, yeah, sure. And then a doomsday happens, like, 3
Can you
months
imagine
earlier.
imagine
the
if he went to
premise.
him and then like Tubbo was like, yeah, I can make a nuke, and he's just like, what? Like he's surprised. He's like fucking surprised that's even like a reality on this goddamn server.
See,
Like
that's what I was gonna say. I
Tubbo's
was like,
just like resident mad scientist.
he's like, what, really?
of
Like, and then
the
Tubbo's like,
Dream
yeah,
SMP.
like,
I
I can
just-
totally make it. Like,
I just love the premise of in the Dream SMP that, like, in the lore and the world of the Dream SMP, nukes are a thing that someone else has
There's
already
uranium in the
created
ground.
and come up with the concept for. It's just whether you can build them or not. And it's like, so yeah, just nukes just existed previous to when Tubbo made them. It's just not here, but they exist in the world. Like, he didn't have to come up with the thought of, what if I make a bomb but bigger? He was like, no, I'm gonna skip straight to a nuke. Like, I don't know why, but that just makes me laugh.
and they were like,
Because
TNT?
just the, like, the
Nukes.
era.
They're-
Because, like, the era of the Dream SMP is, like, how you should treat, like, well, are we, like, more, like, fantasy,
I love how they
like,
threw in
weaponry and
Nokia
stuff like that?
phones.
I think
And then they break
the
out
thing is,
guns
like,
and nukes, and you're like, okay.
disregard all typical views of the fantasy
Yeah.
genre.
Yeah, it's just a mishmash
It's just
of
a
different
completely
things.
different
I love the
universe.
fact
Yeah,
that they
it's
throw
like,
in like just modern shit. It's so funny. Like, it's so good.
It is. It's just such a mishmash.
Eric has
Yeah,
a
the Nokia.
Nokia.
I think that's the
Yeah.
funniest thing. I'm like,
Phones
yes,
exist.
it's so good.
And it's just, it's very funny as well, because it's like, yeah, these things exist.
I think it's
just
interesting
that,
that there's such like a present thing in fanon is the idea of communication.
Yeah, the comms.
Yeah.
Which are
Yeah.
essentially like how people chat with each other.
I like
It's like
those.
the
I think
Star
those are
Trek
cool.
comms.
Some people put, yeah. Some people put like I love the people who like design different characters because I feel like a lot of them are done really well.
I've always thought of them as like little wristband things, like what's the name? The thingy from Fallout.
Pip Boys, right? Isn't
yeah,
that
like
what it
the
is?
thingy on the
wrist
wrist
one's
with the
cool.
screen that has like the information you can look at. That's how it's always been, like, that's how I picture it in my head whenever I write something that mentions people with the communicator.
Yeah, I think that works well.
Because it just seems like if they're like running around and fighting monsters and stuff, they don't have the time to be like taking out any phone or
I like to think
DS
they're
type
walkie-talkies
thing.
sometimes.
It makes more sense for them to just have like a thing on their wrist.
I'm used to walkie-talkies, so like I always think of them as walkie-talkies like on their belt. So you just hear if somebody opens on an open channel, they're just fucking screaming into the goddamn channel basically, and you're just like, you just gotta deal with it or turn it down.
Hello and welcome back to the Mellohi Spotlight. It is good to be fulfilling my purpose of bringing you the best fan creators of the Dream SMP. I hope you are enjoying them. This week the spotlight is on an artist and new animator, Vioeri. Ri is a digital artist on Twitter who creates many beautiful pieces of art of character Dream, Puns, Sapnap, George, and Dream XD as well as their content creator counterparts. Ri's rendering is truly impressive, with a lot of mastery on lighting and color, that helps to empathize the symbolism inside their artwork. They truly have a deep understanding of the characters, especially Dreams, that shows the complexity of each of them. Recently, Ri also made their first animatic called Checkmate, which contains heavy symbolism tied to chess and the stage disc finale. Not only is the artwork beautiful on its own, but the representation of bigger aspects of the characters is wonderfully done. You should follow Ri at VIOARRY on Twitter and YouTube for more amazing art. Additionally, my creator requests your thoughts on future spotlights. Please leave ideas and suggestions in the comment section of our YouTube page, or by contacting us at Mellohi Podcast on Twitter. Thank you for listening and please enjoy the rest of the episode.
Okay, so we're about halfway through the episode. Let's talk about the recent lore. Specifically, I wanted to focus on Dream and Sam's recent lore, especially because the first stream happened right after we recorded our last episode, so it had already happened by the time that our last episode came out.
And I think we're through all of them now, right? Because I think after this last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't had a chance to watch the Sam Prison Lore streams.
Yeah.
You should do
They're
that.
pretty easy to watch.
They're amazing.
They're quite short. They're all on his Twitch channel.
And I think there's like 5 of them, so you should be able, and I think they're each like 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's not
so if
bad.
you just have like a couple hours at night, you should be able to get through it all. It's fucking fantastic though. It was so good.
Do you want to go through them one by one?
Yeah, we can try.
Okay, so the first one starts with Sam just kind of feeling bad for himself.
As he does.
In the cell. And then Dream just shows up and says that he was going to live in the prison and starts talking to Sam about being a good person or a bad person.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let me see. I want to pull up specific recaps because I'm not going to remember what happened in the specific one.
Yeah, it's, trying to think what all happened.
Oh wait, no, didn't no.
It was Sam got locked in the prison by Techno and Tubbo, and then almost immediately after, a couple hours later, Dream rolls up to the prison because as the mentally ill person that he is, he's decided he's going to use it as his home.
His little fortress.
Which, if anyone who has any good concept of, like, mental health should realize, hey, that's probably not good for your mental state, considering you spent a year here locked in a tiny cell, tortured for months.
To be fair, he put
buddy,
the down payment down on the house when he paid Sam the 64 diamond blocks. So, like,
True.
technically, it was his house,
like,
but why would you want to live there still? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Like, I get it on a you know, monetary level. Like, you put a lot of money into this,
being like,
and, like, now you have, like, emotional effort put into it, but,
buddy, he has no other place to stay or some shit. He was like...
Also, Sam's talking about, like, he didn't plan a way to get out.
Oh, that was funny as
Yeah.
fuck. I was like, alright.
It's even worse, though. Like, he doesn't even plan to just stay in the prison in general. He specifically goes back to his own cell.
Yeah.
As if there aren't other rooms in the prison he could have probably went and stayed in. He was like, nah, I know where no one will find me. The cell that I was stuck in for fucking a year. No one will look for me there. It's like, you're right, but
shit.
also, what are you doing?
Yeah, like, you could have just
Like,
slept in a little bed before the cell or something, you know?
It is a big server. You can hide in a lot of places.
Go, like, hide in, like, the Pun's tower or something.
But yeah, so they end up talking about, like, he's good, he's evil, how you decide it, and that's, like, the common theme of these streams going forward.
Yeah.
Is basically Dream trying to get Sam to admit that he's a bad person, or more that morality is more complex than he sees it. And most people do bad things for good reasons.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I mean, that's been sort of his, like, modus operandi for, I mean, as long as he's been a character. But I think it is sort of, I don't know, I enjoyed it. I know, like, I shouldn't, like, for me, it was kind of a mix of, like, I feel bad for Sam because no one should be locked in the prison, but at the same time, I'm like, yes,
it is kind of
reality
funny.
check.
I'm gonna be
freaking finally!
Well, like we said in our last episode, it's like, because we knew he was gonna get out pretty soon, you don't really feel bad about enjoying the fact.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's not gonna impact him that much.
Yeah.
And we were right, because he did get out within, like, less than a week.
Yeah. It was sort of low impact, right? Because, like, even if, like, let's say, like, Dream hadn't shown up, then, I think everyone, you know, the other bodies or something like that were like, well, Sam's obviously not going to be stuck. Like, this is not the end of Sam. Like, obviously he's going to get out somehow. So, like, I think it kind of had, like, less of a anxiousness to it for us. Because I think, it just seemed kind of like, obviously he's not going to stay in there forever. That's kind of, that'd be weird. But, I don't know. Their streams were so good.
No, for real.
They set up Sam and Dream sort of, because they're very similar characters, right? Like, they're mirrors of each other in ways, but with subtle differences, that when they exposed, it was just like, yes! It's beautiful! It's so good! It's just, oh man, I feel like I should be coming up with, like, intelligent things to say, but I'm just like, yes! Yes!
Yes. No, I
loved it so
honestly,
much.
like, I just really like it on, I guess, how Dream talks about on, like, the philosophical level, when he's trying to get through to Sam and, like, pointing out the parts of his viewpoint that, like, contradict each other.
Yeah.
Like, where the hypocrisy shows. Hypocrisy?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. It showed a lot about Sam's character.
Honestly, the one that was like, I get so funny because so many of the arguments he uses are like stuff we've talked about, are stuff that's really common.
Oh yeah.
To talk about in like character-driven sympathetic places.
Yeah.
Like the Skeppy cage.
That was funny as fuck.
The
Skeppy cage. There is literally like a U quiz out there that's like, are you a character dream apologist? And the single question is, do you think the Skeppy cage is funny? And if you say yes, it says that you are a character dream apologist.
Yeah, because the Skeppy cage
like,
objectively is hilarious. And oh man, I just remember after those streams, because Character Dream, like, confirmed a ton of things that a lot of his apologists and analysts had already been saying, right? Like, we all, you know, it wasn't just him talking about stage finale, which was amazing, but it was because we got sort of him saying that, him saying how it was all theatrics, and how the Skeppy cage didn't even make sense, and everyone's kind of an idiot for falling for that, because really, I had an entire prison, and I'm gonna put Skeppy in a 2x1 cage? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I don't know, it was that, but then it was a lot of confirmation on how
he's like, I had a whole prison.
Things.
Which is like the exact argument I've been making for months, is like, why would he need the Skeppy cage if he has a whole prison with so many cells?
And it just...
And it's just great to hear him using that exact same logic.
Yeah. And it was, I don't know, so much of what he said was just things that, like, a lot of his analysts on the C Dream apologist side of things had already been saying about, like, in his view, he's not a bad person, or he's a bad person, but, like, his things are not, like, he's more, what is it, like, he believes himself to be a bad person.
Yeah.
But because the things he's doing are for, in his mind, good reasons, they aren't as bad as somebody doing them for bad reasons. And sort of this impact of, like, everyone on the server is a bad person. Like, Character Dream, Content Creator Dream, is the biggest Character Dream apologist I have ever seen. Because he got, like, I don't know, it was just so, like, therapeutic almost hearing him talk about.
That's
like,
what
his
it felt
morality
like,
and
though.
how he sees things.
It was like at like a, you know, like in universe level, it felt like they were in therapy. Like, it felt like they were both like he was trying to give Sam, like, you know, the perspective of, like, listen, man, like, you're not making any fucking sense. And then Sam was sitting there and then Dream's like talking back and forth with him about his own shit, and it was just very much like therapy, and it was so fucking funny.
A lot of the time he's like saying, like, so I did these things for good reasons.
Yeah, then he's like, so then what did you do?
And then Sam's like, you're a bad person. And then he's like, well, you did these bad things, why did he do those? And Sam's like, I did them for good reasons, so I'm a good person.
Sam is very, he's very, like, there's a name for that type of thinking. It's not necessarily black and white, but there's a name for it. It's where you just split everything in two, and there's no, like, no between, there's no, like, anything. So Sam just thinks in, like, complete, like, black and white. He's just like,
binary?
It's like, binary. It's not a very good way of thinking, because you'll end up situations like Sam did, where someone confronts you, and then you get, like, upset, and then angry, or, like, confused.
Binary opposition, according to Wikipedia.
I think that's it, yeah.
Binary opposition is the blah 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 is a system of language and or thought by which two theoretical opposites are strictly defined and set off against one another.
It's just
I think that sounds about right.
And there's a whole way to, like, break out of it and stuff, but what Dream was doing actually mirrors how, not in, like, a very, like, there's obviously a good way of going about that, like the breaking down kind of thinking, but Dream was actually doing some of the things that, like, you will do in, like, therapy to break down that kind of thinking, which was really funny to me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wow, he's really just, like, giving him a whole therapy session about, like, black and white thinking, or, like, you know, having that whole, like, splitting everything, like, you know, in his head. And I was like, that's fucking wild. Therapy on the Dream SMP, finally, you know?
It is really weird, though. Just like, cause, like, you'd think out of the two of them that, you know, Dream's probably the one that needs therapy.
Yeah.
But then Dream is somehow giving Sam therapy and, like, sort of reality checking and, like, breaking him out of that really unhealthy, unrealistic.
Like, yeah, because he was just sitting there thinking about how he's like, I'm not a bad person, I'm not a bad person. What if I am a bad person? Maybe I'm a bad person. I'm not a bad person. Like, he was, like, ruminating so damn much. It's just, it's clearly not healthy. It's not helping him. Whereas, like, Dream was like, basically it's equivalent of move the fuck on, bro. Like, maybe you're doing bad shit. Like, you know. I was like, damn.
I don't think it, like,
one interesting thing I noticed about those streams is how the way Dream acted kind of made it feel like he was specifically pointing out that how Sam ran the prison
Yeah.
was bad by doing the exact opposite. So
Yeah.
it brings
Yeah,
it
he was
into
basically
actually talking to him about his issues
Yeah.
and stuff,
Yeah.
which fits with the more of like
He
the
actually visited him
rehabilitation
every day,
concept
yeah.
than like the
It was like,
Yeah. It was it was so interesting to me because I remember a couple of the things that I said on Twitter, like as the streams were going on, is that it's really interesting to see the way that Dream treated Sam compared to how Sam and Quackity treated Dream, right? Because Sam and Quackity were all stick and Dream was all carrot for the most part. Like at worst, he didn't show up for like I think a day technically.
Yeah.
But like that was the worst. Like he wasn't. Like, as the streams went by, he gave Sam more and more things. He gave him a clock, he gave him food. And it's weird because obviously it's a tactic, right? Like, he's trying to get, like, Sam to listen to him. And part of the way to do that is, you know, positive reinforcement. So, like, it was, like, sort of manipulative and whatever. But frankly, given the dynamic of the characters before that, I feel like Dream could have been, like, way worse to Sam. And I would have been like, yeah, that's okay. Because Sam treated him like an actual, like, dog and worse.
I mean,
like, he treated him like non-human. I was like, I think anyone who came out of those prison streams were like, oh my god, Dream is so evil. Look what he did to Sam.
Dream's,
like,
he said it best.
Because Sam is like...
he said that he was merciful, and I was like...
oh god, how horrific. Dream gave Sam cake and a golden apple. This is the most monstrous deed he's ever committed.
He was so straight up, like he like showed him so much mercy.
Like
man.
he didn't even put Sam in the prison.
Oh
like,
yeah, no, he didn't even put him in there.
You can kind of get some of the arguments if he was the one who put Sam there, but no, Tubbo and Eric and Techno were the ones that put him there. If he hadn't shown up,
Sam would have starved to death.
Sam would have probably just like started starving.
Yeah. It was No, I did see a lot of people, though, like, reacting to the streams and being like, Dream's manipulating, Dream's so evil, Dream's so awful. And it's like, yes, he was
like,
sort of manipulating
is it really, like,
Sam,
manipulating
but...
to tell someone that cutting off someone's arm is bad?
It's not like he was doing
like,
anything
the
like...
manipulation...
No, you're good.
I think manipulation's become, like, that word has become sort of just, like, a key word that a lot of people use in the fandom, and then don't give it a lot of nuance. It's always depicted as something like, this is awful, this is bad. And, like, yeah, you shouldn't manipulate people, obviously. But in a situation like this, where you have someone who has these, like, deeply set convictions about how terrible someone is and, like, how the world works that are obviously false for one thing, very harmful to themselves and others, and it's in a position where it's like one person who has been harmed for a year by this other person. Like don't get me, like, Sam was like abusive towards Dream while he was in the prison, right? Like, I don't think there should be any question about that, even if you don't want to be like, well, he didn't, like, you know, physically harm him or whatever. Like, he was neglectful, and that's a kind of abuse.
I mean, he was committing straight prison abuse.
If you want to, like,
if you want to use like a term,
it was bad. And so, like, and given that, like, I know people are like, well, it's Dream, he's evil, and it's manipulation. It's like, honestly, I don't really feel like anything that Dream did in that prison was really bad. Like,
I feel like you can't, like,
killing Sam.
What would he have been manipulating him to do, though? Like, that's what I don't get, is, like, what, to like, know he's a bad person? Like, how is that bad? Like, you know what I mean? How's that manipulation? Like, I mean, like, that's like saying that you going to therapy and, like, them, like, convincing you that what you did was bad is manipulation? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are a couple of things, like, he kind of did, like, you know, get it where, like, Sam was, like, you know, willing to do anything to get out of the prison. Like, like, anybody in the situation would probably, like, you know, be like, alright, no, like, I'll do whatever you say to get the fuck out of here. But, like, I don't think he was, like, people are trying to say he's, like, sitting down to, like, in a targeted, like manipulation campaign to, like, make Sam believe he's a bad person when he's not. And I'm like, in what fucking world? You know what I mean? Like, they're, like
Sam, not a bad
I'm like,
person.
what? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, people are just trying to make some argument. And I'm like, what are you saying? Like, this is more complicated than that. Like, what?
Like, I don't think you could say that anything he did during the prison was necessarily, like, good. Like, he wasn't, like, saving puppies from getting run over, like, helping old ladies across the street. Like, it wasn't good, but I don't think anything from those streams can be used to argue that Dream is like incredibly like pure evil.
They're
That just
gonna be
doesn't
like,
make
oh,
sense.
it's the
It not only
end.
goes against
It's the
what
end
happened
part.
and like the context,
Like,
but it goes against what Dream himself was
arguing
saying.
that people are morally complex.
Yeah, like it wasn't a good thing.
Like,
to
I understand
do.
how some of the fandom can see that as evil, considering they think that everyone is into a binary of good person and bad
Yeah,
person.
that's the thing that's gonna be the hardest people to like come to terms with, is that the Dream SMP isn't gonna tell a story where it's just good people versus bad people, villains versus heroes. It's just people versus people. It's a very human, little web series.
Honestly,
kind of
I
thing,
think it's a situation where the youth of most of the fandom works against it.
But I think
Because there are so many younger people in the
I mean,
fandom
I've seen people who are
used
like
to stories like this, and this is
Yeah.
probably the first
There's a lot of older people though. Like there's
story
not older
with
people, but like
complex, morally grey characters that are
Yeah.
all of the
Enough to-
characters.
yeah, there are people who are like their 20s who I've seen saying shit, and people in their 30s. I could go on like a whole dissertation about like why I think that, but I'm not, because it's like 3 hours, so that'd be insane. But like, I don't know, they're getting frustrated with the narrative, and like, I'm gonna be real, if they're that frustrated, they should just leave. Like, go to a different fandom where you'll be more happy with the story. Write your own shit.
You don't like it? Don't
Yeah,
stick
like
around.
the door's right there.
But I was actually thinking about it though. Like honestly, out of everything that we should take from these streams,
Yeah.
is like I feel like these prison streams, in a way, were trying to reaffirm that lesson in everyone, right? Because it wasn't just because basically that's what it was doing. It was disproving the idea that there are good and bad people on the server.
Yeah.
Because that's what Dream was trying to teach Sam. And so I feel like people coming away from those streams with the takeaway that like, no, Dream is so evil, he's pure evil, and like there are good people, and like it's all linear, right? It's all good and bad people. There's no middle ground. Are getting the wrong
They
lesson.
are,
Because
yeah.
I feel like the entire point of that of those 5 streams was. And honestly, it's almost brilliant the way they did it, because they had this like perfect opportunity with Sam as character, whose entire line of thinking is very similar to the way that the Dream SMP fans, a lot of them do, where everything is like, oh, these are the good people, these are the bad people. That's how Sam thinks.
Yeah.
And by proving
Sometimes I wonder
in
if
those
like content
streams that
creator
it's
Sam
wrong.
specifically wrote his character based on the fact that those kind of ideas exist in the fandom.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I guess it depends.
I mean,
know,
one of, like-
based off everything that Dream said, either his his apologists and his analysts are like way smarter than any of us thought we were, or he's just in our crowds, like he's just running around
there.
like it's some secret fanon account and like listening to all the shit that we write. But like, I don't know. It's just.
I mean, the best.
They saw this perfect
Yeah.
opportunity. They took it, and I feel like they did a really, really well job with it. And it's kind of, I'm hoping that based off of that and how well they did, and sort of that was the lesson they were trying to teach, is like everyone on the server is morally gray, that people will sort of get that cemented into their head. I just know that it's probably the sad thing is that, like, I feel like Dream and Sam's characters was such a perfect setup for it, but because it's character Dream and the opinions on him are so polarizing, a lot of people aren't gonna.
Well, everyone like
recognize
also
it,
get
but-
is like now like Dream killed Sam, so they're like, oh look, he's like like he said all the.
To be fair,
I'm
he
like,
had every right
yeah.
to do that.
Come on, he's got 2
I'm like,
lines
listen,
left.
murder is a bit different in that
See, look,
universe.
he took the first one, so now Punk can take the second one, and Ronabu can take the third
Exactly.
Like,
Oh,
I mean,
he had
I don't
every
know.
right to do that. I don't care what anyone says.
It's just a
I don't know, I think-
I don't know. In my mind, I'm just like, it's just them basically giving a narrative about how it's just. That's just like life is a little more complicated than that. I mean, Dreams has a perfect line where he says, "In this world, you have to be a bad guy," which like most people took as like, "Oh, look, he's like justifying his own like villainy or some shit." I don't know. And I was like, no, he's like saying like there is gonna be someone out there who, no matter what you do, thinks you're the bad guy, no matter what you do, whether it's to defend yourself or it's to defend someone else, or it's to defend an ideal, or you just actually do commit some kind of act of evil. It doesn't fucking matter. It's like you will be seen as a bad guy. And so it was just an interesting line, and I was like, that's it right there. Like, and then he said, obviously, like, it's a matter of perspective, which again just goes back to the whole, like, it's a matter of fucking perspective, right? Like, how people view the entire Dream SMP, like, whether you want to see it as this, like, really cut and dry black and white story, or whether you want to see it for, like, you know, like, some nuance and some complexity, and some, like, you know, very, like, human type tales that, like, tell stories of people who, like, you know, do a lot of bad things, but are still at the end of the day just people. Like, I don't know, you know? It's just a very nice little, like, it's a nice story. I don't know. This part, like, I almost was gonna, like, I was getting tired of Dream SMP to a degree because the Eggpire ended, and, like, you know, it just kept, like, feeling like different plot lines were just getting, like, destroyed and, like, taken out. And then, like, this happened, and I'm like, now this brings it back because they've alluded to other shit, and I'm like, let's go. Like, I want to see where this goes. Like, really bad. I don't know. God only fucking knows where it's gonna go at this point. But now we got Sam, who's,
Those
you know,
prison streams were just...
Sam's gonna be moping around the whole goddamn server, you know? He's gonna be like, you know how it is. I mean, I love Sam, but, you know, like, that's how he is.
The follow-ups definitely gonna be interesting, right? Because,
100%.
like, I don't know, like, character, I feel like I was underselling the fandom. I think the fandom has a lot of smart people.
They do, yeah. There's smart people on, you know.
Like,
yeah.
I think a lot of people are, like, have the emotional intelligence to get what they're saying.
Yeah.
And
I think people just tend to, like, want
know.
to believe that they understand a story the most, and they just kind of forget that's not how it works. Like, there is a level of, like, you know, getting things completely wrong, but at the same time, it's like, stories are pretty individual. Like, if you want to take from it something that someone else doesn't, then, you know, it's like, that's just how it works.
I think there's a difference, like, there's people, like, we've talked about this before, where people will see something that they don't like in the story and insist that it's bad writing.
Yeah.
That it shouldn't have happened, that it's out of character, rather than just accepting, like, sometimes that's just how the story is, especially if other people have predicted that things were going to go that way. That means that there was a good grounding for it in the story that people were able to expect it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the reasons I think a lot of us are so excited about all the stuff that Dream talked about and that lining up with our own analysis and theories is because basically it proves that we are doing it right.
Or at least, like, there's some, like, you know, it makes you feel, like, good when, like, something happens in a story and, like, you manage to, like, think or talk about it.
Because it means you understand the story enough to predict it, to understand it in that way. It means that you don't really have as much misconceptions, you're not letting any bias influence you.
And if you didn't get something right, you shouldn't take it as,
I did not know that...
like, as a flaw to yourself or anything.
Dude, stage finale, I'm gonna be real, I am so bad at, like, reading comprehension and stuff that, like, I literally did not... I was like, oh, okay. And, like, the moment it got confirmed, I was like, cool. But before that, I was like, I don't know.
I was on the bench about stage finale for, like, ages, pretty much until Techno escaped from prison. And he found those books, and then I was like, that's enough evidence.
Yeah, that's pretty much the point when I was like, oh, okay.
Because before that I was kind of like, well, it could have been planned, it could not have been planned, I don't really see any evidence either way, and then when I found that he'd stashed blueprints and stuff outside the prison, I was like,
yeah, no, definitely,
this was planned.
I know if it was, like, just me, I would have never, like, come to stage finale, right? Like, I just, I don't want people to, like, say, like, well, I didn't predict stage finale, or, like, I didn't see the characters like this. Yeah, like, I thought the server was pretty gray or, like, black and white. Like, no, if you thought that was how the server was, or, like, if you predicted something and then that's not what happened, and something completely different happened, and it was not what you expected, and it's not how you thought the story would go, or what the characters were like, that doesn't necessarily mean, like, oh, I'm so wrong, I'm so dumb, I should never...
No, you're just along for the ride.
You need to reassess.
Yeah, you're kind of there.
And, like, see if, like, well, is there something I missed, or is there something... Or, like, that just means you need to, like, branch out and see other opinions and what other people are saying, because I know for me, like, half of the things that, like, with, like, staged finale, or, like, how, or, like, Dream's character, and, like, a lot of the character depth there, or, like, Sam, or, here's a better example. Tommy. I don't know a lot about character Tommy. Like, obviously, I've watched his streams or anything, but, like, he's not a character I'm super invested in, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm trying to analyze him, I'm obviously gonna get things wrong, and I have, but I've seen other people who are very invested in this character and write these really long, like, Tumblr posts and, like, analysis of his character, come to these conclusions that I would have never come up with by myself, because...
I always feel really weird reading analysis about characters I don't know much about, because I'm like, is this right or is this wrong? Like, is there some clip out there that just completely disproves everything this person has just said, or are they completely right and they understand this character so much better than I ever could?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know enough about the character to say.
Yeah, like, if you get something wrong, it's not that you're
Nobody
stupid
should come,
or,
like,
you
witch...
should
No,
stop
yeah, people
analyzing
shouldn't
all.
witch hunt you or, like, come to your door and, like, fucking, like, you know, like... Nobody should be doing that, right? Like, you shouldn't feel shame because, like, you got some fandom thing wrong. Like, you're just chilling. You're just chilling.
And, like, if you got something wrong, then that doesn't mean you're never gonna get something right again.
You gotta learn how to, like, you know...
If you theorize something and it didn't happen,
it
that's
takes
okay.
time.
Matt Pat made an entire gaming channel out of it.
He really did.
Like...
He really did. He knows it best, you know? He knows how it is, like...
Sometimes you just throw spaghetti at a wall and you see if it sticks or not.
Yeah, fuck it, you know?
You never... There's nothing wrong with, like, you know, theorizing something and then seeing it never happens. As long as you can then recognize, like, oh, it's not that the writers are bad and I should have been
This is
right.
so
It's just,
OOC.
oh, I'm missing information or I didn't think of something. If you are saying, like, well, I think the character's like this and I theorize this is happening, and then it doesn't happen, and then your immediate reaction is to go on Twitter like, wow, this was terrible writing, like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like,
That's a bit of a... That's quite the reaction.
That is not what you should be saying.
That's not it. Like, go to your friends or something and be like, yo, listen, like, I don't know, man, what's going on? Like rewatch some stuff. Come on, like, get invested, get interested, you know? Like, I don't know.
And, like, sometimes it is, like, with certain shows and, like, certain things, like, you can theorize something and it doesn't happen, and it is genuinely because of bad writing or because you've been misled.
True, yeah.
Because I know, like, a lot of fandoms, this is kind of different, but, like, I know with, like, the Sherlock fandom.
Oh, my God. Bro.
People read into a lot of things that they probably shouldn't have read into so hard, but that was because they were purposely being led to, you know...
Yeah, it's also good to keep an eye out for bits that mislead. Like, one thing about Stage Finale that was so cool, so it was set up to mislead most of the fandom, and only a few people really predicted it.
Yeah, if you didn't predict Stage Finale, don't worry about it, because
you're
they
like,
really
you're the
set it
majority
up
if you
to
didn't
be.
predict it, okay?
Yeah, it required a lot of
on the other hand,
dedication.
if you're denying Stage Finale even now...
Yeah, now you just... That's...
reassess.
Yeah, I'd be like, you know, every time I see somebody deny it, I'm like, why? I don't know, at this point, we know it was staged.
It's been so confirmed.
But, like, you know what, if that's how you want to live, that I will, you know, I'm, like I said, no one should come to your house and witch hunt you if you really want to believe stage theory never happened.
It just feels like, to me, someone, like, coming up with reasons why Darth Vader isn't Luke Skywalker.
It definitely does feel like that, yes.
Like, they look nothing
it's
alike.
It's a little bit of burying
Like,
their
they
head in the
related?
sand, just a little, just to, like, you know, just to...
Okay, so what should we do for our question for this episode?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a good question.
Maybe that should be our question. Ask people to give us ideas.
We could.
Well, I know Techno is streaming right now and building something, but I don't know what he's
We could
building,
always, like...
But I'm guessing
We've
he's...
already kind of asked it.
I'm guessing he's revealed it, so that can't really be the question. That's a good question.
Yeah, someone said Among Us statue, which was funny. I think that'd be funny.
Well, it should probably be something related to what we've been talking about.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something good that a lot of people can get creative with, because I think creativity is the ones that can come up with some interesting things.
How about who do you think is the most morally grey character, as in, like, the most neutral character on the Dream SMP?
That's actually an interesting question, right? Because you don't want to go...
Wouldn't it just be Tubbo, though?
That means...
Is that gonna be the... Or is Tubbo
No,
the most good? Like, wait,
I'm
what?
a
I think
hardcore
that Tubbo's
Tubbo.
too
fan.
nice.
He's never done anything
Oh, okay,
wrong
so
his
in
life.
my mind, I'm
nice
like,
to be the most
I'm like, when I
morally
hear
grey.
morally grey...
Morally grey character is to be, like, the perfect
okay.
balance between bad and good,
Yeah,
right?
we need
Tubbo's
somebody
too
right
good
in
for
the
that.
middle.
Like, the perfect
Not
balance.
too bad,
like,
not too good.
evil.
That
not
is
too good.
interesting. Huh.
And also, like, the most neutral, as in
who's committed the most war crimes? We already know that one, but
That'd probably be towards the others. Yeah, because like you could say, because all the characters are morally gray, right? And you could say like Wilbur, Schlatt, Dream are probably towards the darker side of the morally gray, along with Quackity and Sam, and then you know, like Tubbo's probably towards the lighter side, along with like Nikki. But there has to be somebody who's like right in the middle, and I don't want to say it's probably just whichever character we don't know that much information about.
Basically, like, who do you think falls into like?
Ponk does a lot of schemes, but he doesn't like
on the
D&D.
Like,
you know, they don't like do. I don't know. I feel like Ponk would be a good because.
We probably shouldn't try to answer the question. We can give our answers and talk about them next episode. All right.
All right.
All right. So that's our question. Woo. See you then. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Well, thanks for listening to the 38th episode of Mellohi, and we hope you enjoyed it. If there's any topic you'd like to hear us discuss, feel free to leave a comment or find us on Twitter at Mellohi Podcast, where you can also ask us questions or discuss updates about new episodes. We also have a Discord server that you can find a link to in the description. See you next time!